morning, YouTube. My name is Amos Bro, and for this video we are going to be talking about one specific day coming up. That is this Saturday, January the 17th, 2014. The reason we are going to be talking about this day is it's actually a very interesting and important day for two fandoms. One is the Sailor Moon fandom, and the other is the Kuroko fandom. Kuroko no Basuke, or Kuroko's no Basket, or as we just know it, Kuroko's Basketball. Okay? Okay. Why is this day important? Because two anime series, which I consider both legendary in their own rights, are going to be going head to head for the first time ever. And I want us to think about this because I want us to hit the Wayback Machine and go to the 1990s. Think about where anime realistically started as far as having a weekday television series. Okay? My first exposure to Japanese anime was, in fact, the series Sailor Moon. Now, this is the R season. There's a reason why I'm holding this one. In the 1990s, we didn't really have exposure to Eastern entertainment yet. Back then, a lot of the shows we had that were animated, the stories were, for the most part, self-contained one-shot episodes. Like if you're watching certain syndicated game shows, where they wouldn't say have a returning champion. Jack Barry's Break the Bank, and the syndicated version or nighttime version of Match Game ring a bell, if you want to go use that type of thing. Well, for whatever reason, here in the West, a lot of cartoons that I saw, they may have had one overall plot, but you didn't really have the advancement towards that goal. What you ended up with was a bunch of self-contained episodes, but nothing else. So you really, even though you still cheered for the good guy, you kind of wondered now, if you look back on some of those shows, what did they do to advance me to get to the end game? The fact of the matter is, that I can remember, they didn't really do anything. It always sucked. Because the shows would be cancelled, and yet there was no finality. There was no real end to the story. It's like reading a book, but the ending of the book was never wrote. You're just reading a page with no continuation. This was in the 80s, for most of the 1990s. Around about 95, 97-ish, there started to become this movement, and maybe a little bit earlier, there started to become this movement towards bringing in the Eastern entertainment. When I say Eastern, I mean the Japanese entertainment, because mostly, at this point, they were starting with the movement to bring in Japanese anime. And in some cases it was just subbed. In some cases it had a dub and it was on a VHS tape. For those of you who have ever seen the movie Windaria, or for those of you that have seen the original version of They Were 11, you will know that that was on VHS. Or even for those of you who have seen from the US Manga Corps, Battle Skipper was on VHS at one point. But the point of it is, with all this, is that we started to see this come in to the United States. And it started realistically through Columbia House, and then it eventually made its way to your video store. Well, in the mid to late 90s, TV stations started to take a chance on it, especially local syndicated television stations. WPSG 57 here in southern New Jersey, now it's the CW, part of CW, it started seeing that people were getting interested because Sci-Fi Channel was showing the Saturday animes, be it a movie or an OVA, like Record of Lotus War or Project Echo. So they decided, well, let's get on the anime bandwagon. And at the time, realistically, those who had not really been exposed to it didn't know what the hell it really was. They just assumed it was a cartoon series. Well, here on Sundays we got Tekka Man Blade, otherwise known as Techno Man. But then we started getting a hold of this one series which featured this young lady named Tatsuki Usagi, which was Sailor Moon. And it appeared in daily syndication Monday through Friday, starting at 8:30 in the morning, but eventually got bounced around to about 2:30 in the afternoon. Eventually, it made its way to the Cartoon Network at 4:30 in the afternoon and 2:15 in the morning, and then eventually also made its way to USA Network. Yeah. Of course, it had an English dub, which a lot of people hated. I can't say that I hated the original Dick dub that they used, because actually, here's the funny thing about that. People forever bitched because they changed the relationship of Zoisite and Kunzite in that particular dub. Well, come to find out later, they were never really in a relationship in the first place. That was all fabrication. But anyway, so in about 2000, the year 2000, Sailor Moon finally quietly left the airwaves. It was never to be seen again. Well, I say that, but we come to find out towards the end of about 2012 that there was going to be a revival of Sailor Moon, which was believed to have going to be started in 2013. And as you all know, there was many different things that happened, many different changes, and eventually it got to Crunchyroll, and this is where we are now with Sailor Moon Crystal, which airs every other week or every 3 weeks, depending on the way the schedule plays out, because it airs the first and third Saturday of every month. Well, as we know, it's not been well received, and yours truly has already reviewed the first season. Now we have to think about this. Sailor Moon, this is 2014. Back in the late 1990s and maybe early 2000s, anime wasn't really big yet. There weren't a billion different ways to watch it. There weren't a billion different websites, legal and otherwise. Now, you're looking at one of the single most important animes, and it could be threatened, as far as I'm concerned, by a teal-haired young man and his friends from the Generations of Miracles. That brings us to Kuroko's basketball. Alright, while I'm not as well versed in the manga, like that, and I'm not really even that well versed in the manga for 7 minutes, why I avoid it, I can tell you that I heard a lot of rumblings about this anime. And I was seeing a lot of gift sets on Tumblr around about the time when I first started on it. So I did what any normal sane human being would do. I watched season 1. Lord howdy was I impressed. You very well know that. Then season 2 came. And not only was I impressed, but my jaw was hitting the floor and I was having adrenaline rushes like a motherfucker. Something that while Sailor Moon allowed me emotional connections in its original form in the 1990s for its 200 episodes, there was something about that series that, looking back on it now, I have a harder time really saying, yeah, it was really it's my number one, because it was my number one for 17 years. There were many other good contenders, like Gundam Wing, even though that was a series I was really going to hate. But what was about Kuroko's basketball? Well, there was a number of things. The fact that I think I could actually relate to the lead character, who everybody says, he's not that good. No, but the minute you want to doubt him, he will find a way to make you eat your words. That's a fact. And if you want to try him, go for it. But let me tell you, you'll sit there most of the time with your jaw picking your jaw up off the floor, wondering what in the hell did I just get myself into. Then of course you have the 3-point shooter Midorima Shintaro, Kisuryota, Emin Daiki, Atsushi Matsubara, I can't even pronounce that last name for the life of me, and Akashi Seijiro, the master of the Emperor's Eye. Well, we have made it through the first 2 seasons of Kuroko's basketball. Do you know what? Unlike Sailor Moon over the years, where I can tell you that I hated the first... Well, I didn't hate the first season, but I thought it was average, and the second season was the greatest thing ever. This show, I have not had one complaint for either season. But now we're in the dreaded 3rd season. Remember, kids, this is where Sailor Moon fell hard on her face when I did the original 5 seasons a few years ago, when I covered all 200 episodes. And I may do it again at some point. I think I deleted the original videos. I'm going to redo them at some point, maybe. But this is where we come to this Saturday. This is where we get to the point where 2 series. One is a legendary series that has been around for 20 years, over 20 years rather. And its fandom is a loyal and rabid bunch. And I still consider myself part of it. However, this Saturday, it takes on, as far as I'm concerned, it's not contender to the throne. Kuroko's basketball, the 3rd season, which this year is for the first time being aired exclusively on daisuke.net. And this is legitimately one of the greatest Saturdays coming up I've ever been privy to. Because you see, when you have arguably 2 of the best franchises going head to head with each other, and think of it this way also, on Tumblr, we should think, just so you know how unequal footing these 2 are at this point right now. On Tumblr, Sailor Moon was number 10 as far as the most reblogged or most talked about anime on the website. Number 11, this year could be the year that Sailor Moon gets passed by Kuroko. We actually recently on Tumblr just had a KMB Countdown project, which I participated in. And I am thankful for being allowed to do it. What I'm going to tell you is, this Saturday, I have to be as objective as possible. Because it's almost like, in a weird way, here's your old girlfriend that you dated for how long, and they're, they see you coming, and they're walking, down the same sidewalk you are, in the opposite direction. Meanwhile, here you come with your new girlfriend. To say this week is going to be a little awkward? Maybe. But I promise you one thing. It's going to be interesting to see, can Sailor Moon Crystal start to rebuild its slightly wounded more than slightly wounded reputation against a series that so far has yet to show a weakness in 51 episodes. Can it be done? Can Sailor Moon finally pick itself up off the mat after, let's be fair, the first half of this series currently hasn't done it any favors, and there'll be people that after these 26 episodes are over, when it comes to Sailor Moon, they may be more grateful when that's over than when the 75th episode of Kuroko's basketball airs, because they may not want that to end. And that's not me being biased, that's me telling you the truth after what I've seen on Tumblr. It's a very interesting dynamic when it comes to Sailor Moon Crystal. It's equally as interesting when it comes to Kuroko. First episode just aired for Kuroko's third season. Not one negative person said anything about that. Not one person said anything negative about that season, or that episode. Virtually every week, or every episode of Sailor Moon Crystal, people were picking that apart left, right, and center. Let's see if the second half of Sailor Moon Crystal can avoid being picked apart. Or is it all over but the crying? We'll find out, won't we? Join me this Saturday, because this Saturday, for the first time ever, first and only time, we're going to do a comparison video to the season premiere of the second half, or the season premiere of season 2 for Sailor Moon Crystal versus the second episode of season 3 of KMB. This is going to be a fun day, and it's only 6 days away. See you then.